My little son, who looked from thoughtful eyes and moved and spoke in quiet, grown-up wise, having my law the 7th time disobeyed, I struck him and dismissed with hard words and unkiss'd, his mother, who was patient, being dead. Then, fearing lest his grief should hinder sleep, I visited his bed, but found him slumbering deep, with darken'd eyelids, and their lashes yet from his late sobbing wet. And I with moan, kissing away his tears, left others of my own. For on a table drawn beside his head, he had put, within his reach, a box of counters and a red-veined stone, a piece of glass abraded by the beach, and 6 or 7 shells, a bottle with bluebells, and 2 French copper coins, ranged there with careful art, to comfort his sad heart. So when that night I prayed to God, I wept and said, "Ah, when at last we lie with tranced breath, not vexing thee in death,
and thou rememberest of what toys we made our joys, how weakly understood thy great commanded good, then, fatherly not less than I, whom thou hast molded from the clay, thou'lt leave thy wrath, and say, I will be sorry for their childishness."
मेरा नन्हा सा बेटा, संजीदा सी आंखों वाला, खामोश तबीयत, बातों में था बड़ों जैसा निराला। उसने 7वीं बार जब मेरी बात ना मानी, गुस्से में आकर मैंने उसे सजा दे डाली। सख्त अल्फाज कहे, ना प्यार किया ना पोसा दिया, तन्हा उसे कमरे में भेज दिया। उसकी माँ, जो सब्र व शफ़क़त की तस्वीर थी, इस दुनिया से जा चुकी थी, अब वो बेनज़ीर थी। फिर दिल में ख्याल आया, गम से सो ना पाएगा, उसका नन्हा दिल शायद बहुत घबराएगा। मैं चुपके से उसके बिस्तर के पास गया, देखा तो वो गहरी नींद में खोया हुआ था। उसकी पलकें सूजी हुई, आंसुओं से तर थीं, अभी अभी के रोने की निशानियां जाहिर थीं। मैं झुका, उसके आंसू बोसों से मिटाए, मगर अपनी आंखों से कई अश्क बहाए। उसकी सरहानी एक मेज रखी थी, जिस पर नन्ही सी दुनिया सजी हुई थी। रंगीन गिनती के मोहरे, सुर्ख रग वाला पत्थर, समंदर से घिसा शीशे का एक टुकड़ा, दिलकश मंजर, चंद सीपियां, नीली फूलों से भरी बोतल और 2 फ्रांसीसी तांबे के सिक्के कामिल। उसने सब चीजें मोहब्बत से सजा रखी थीं, अपनी दुखी दिल को बहलाने को पास रखी थीं।
उसी रात जब मैं खुदा के हुजूर झुका, मेरा दिल रोया और लबों से ये निकला, ए रब, जब आखिर हम खामोश पड़ जाएंगे और मौत की नींद में तुझे ना सताएंगे, तब तू याद करेगा कि हमने भी दुनिया के खिलौनों में अपनी खुशियां ढूंढी थीं। हम तेरे अहकाम की गहराई ना जान सके, तेरी अजीम भलाई को पूरी तरह ना पहचान सके। फिर ए खालिक, तू भी बाप की मानिंद हम पर अपना गुस्सा ना रखना हमेशा पाबंद। हमें मिट्टी से तूने खुद बनाया है, हमारी कमजोरी को तूने खूब पहचाना है। आखिर तू शफकत से यही फरमाएगा, मैं इनकी बचकाना नादानी पर नाराज नहीं, बल्कि इनकी मासूम कमजोरी पर रहम करूंगा।
The speaker describes his little son as a thoughtful child who behaves and speaks with unusual maturity. However, when the boy disobeys his father for the 7th time, the father loses his temper, strikes him, and sends him away with harsh words. He does not even kiss the child before dismissing him. The boy's mother, who had been patient and gentle, is dead, so the child has no one else to comfort him.
After some time, the father begins to worry that his son may be too upset to sleep. He goes quietly to the boy's bed and finds him sleeping deeply. However, the child's darkened eyelids and wet eyelashes show that he had cried himself to sleep.
The sight of the sleeping child fills the father with sorrow and regret. He kisses away the boy's tears, but his own tears fall as well. Beside the child's bed, he notices several small objects carefully arranged on a table. Counters, a red-veined stone, a piece of glass worn smooth by the sea, some shells, a bottle containing bluebells
bluebells, and 2 French copper coins. Though these things seem worthless to an adult, they are precious to the child. He has placed them near himself to comfort his sad and lonely heart.
That night, the father prays to God and compares human beings to little children. He reflects that people often make worldly possessions and temporary pleasures their sources of happiness, just as the child finds comfort in simple toys. Human beings do not fully understand God's commandments or the higher good he intends for them. The speaker hopes that after death, God will show the same fatherly tenderness toward humanity that he now feels toward his son. He prays that God will put aside his anger and forgive people for their weakness, ignorance, and childish mistakes.
Who is the speaker in the poem?
The speaker is a father who describes an incident involving his young son. He later reflects on the relationship between human beings and God.
Why does the father punish his son?
The father punishes the boy because he has disobeyed him for the 7th time. In anger, he strikes him and sends him away without showing affection.
What kind of child is the speaker's son?
The child is thoughtful, quiet, and mature in his behavior. He looks, moves, and speaks in a manner that seems unusually grown up.
Why is the reference to the child's dead mother important?
The reference increases the sadness of the situation. The mother had been patient and loving, but she is no longer alive to comfort the boy after his father's harsh treatment.
Why does the father visit his son's bed?
The father becomes worried that grief may prevent the child from sleeping. He goes to check on him and discovers that the boy has cried himself to sleep.
What shows that the child had been crying?
His eyelids are darkened, and his eyelashes are still wet with tears from his recent sobbing.
Why does the father begin to cry?
He feels guilty and deeply sorry for treating his son harshly. The sight of the child's tear-stained face and his simple toys awakens the father's love and sympathy.
What objects has the child arranged beside his bed?
He has arranged a box of counters, a red-veined stone, a piece of beach-worn glass, several shells, a bottle containing bluebells, and 2 French copper coins.
Why are the toys important to the child?
The objects provide emotional comfort. Although they have little material value, they are precious to the child and help soothe his sadness after being punished.
What do the toys symbolize?
The toys symbolize the temporary possessions, pleasures, and ambitions of human life. Just as the child finds happiness in simple objects, adults often become attached to worldly things that may appear insignificant from a higher spiritual perspective.
What is the central idea of the poem?
The poem presents human beings as children before God. Because people are weak and cannot fully understand divine wisdom, the poet hopes that God will forgive their mistakes with the tenderness of a loving father.
How does the speaker compare himself with God?
The speaker compares his relationship with his son to God's relationship with humanity. As he forgives his child after understanding his innocence and weakness, he hopes that God will forgive human beings for their childishness.
What is the significance of the title, The Toys?
The title has both a literal and a symbolic meaning. Literally, it refers to the small objects that comfort the child. Symbolically, it refers to worldly possessions and pleasures that human beings value during their lives.
What poetic devices are used in the poem?
The poem contains several important poetic devices. Symbolism. The toys represent worldly pleasures and possessions. Extended analogy. The child's relationship with his father is compared to humanity's relationship with God. Visual imagery. Expressions such as darkened eyelids, red-veined stone, 6 or 7 shells, and a bottle with bluebells create clear pictures. Apostrophe. The speaker directly addresses God through the words thee and thou. Enjambment. Ideas frequently continue from one line to the next without a full stop. Alliteration. The repeated sound in 6 or 7 shells gives the line a musical effect. Contrast. The father's earlier anger is contrasted with his later tenderness and regret. Religious allusion. Molded from the clay refers to the belief that God created human beings from clay.
Explain the final line. I will be sorry for their childishness.
In the final line, the speaker imagines God responding mercifully to human weakness. The word childishness refers to people's sins, limited understanding, and
attachment to worldly pleasures. The speaker hopes that God will view these faults with compassion and forgive humanity as a loving father forgives a child.
The tone changes throughout the poem. It begins with anger and strictness, moves towards sorrow and remorse, and ends in a reflective, prayerful, and hopeful mood.
The poem has an irregular structure with lines of different lengths. It uses many rhyming pairs, such as eyes, wise, yet, wet, moan, own, shells, bluebells, toys, joys, understood, good, breath, death. The changing line lengths reflect the speaker's changing emotions and give the poem a natural, thoughtful flow.
Human beings are weak and imperfect, but divine love is compassionate. Just as a loving parent forgives a child's mistakes, God may forgive humanity's ignorance, weakness, and attachment to worldly toys.